So we've finished our bracelet now, and it's time to attach the clasp. The clasp came in this little tiny envelope that you found in your packet of materials. We're going to take it out, and you'll see that it comes in two parts. There's one part with a lobster claw on it, and the other part is just a hook. We're going to attach the lobster claw on first. Now the lobster claw is on a swivel hook. Some of these will have a 360-degree turn, so it's not so important which direction you put this on, but some of the claws that I was supplied only have a 180-degree turn. So it's very important that you check to see which kind you have. If you have it with only a 180-degree turn, you want to make sure that when it turns from side to side, if your piece is laying upwards, that your lobster claw clasp has the little hook right here on the top. So now you're laying your clasp down, and the first thing you have to do is be ready to bead up to the point of attaching the clasp. So we're first going to pick up, as we always do, our 2 red beads. And we're going to go through our first bead. Now it's time to pick up the clasp. What I like to do is pick up beads and thread them through the hole. This accomplishes 2 things. I think it gives it a more finished look, but in addition, it protects the thread from rubbing against the metal and wearing out. In the instruction packet that you received, you'll note that I called for picking up 5 beads. I'm going to pick up 5 more red beads right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to bring them down to the bottom of my thread so that they're flush with the finished bracelet. Now I'm going to take my needle and put it through the loop, and also bring that down flush with the bracelet. The next step will be coming back, and if you see where the thread comes out of the last bead that was actually attached to the bracelet, you're going to pass your needle through that bead a second time. So now you've created a loop that will hold your clasp onto your bracelet. Now to be safe, I like to take my thread through this loop a second time. So I'm going to turn it over. Run the thread through. Sometimes thread will get a little stuck on the end of the bracelet. That's okay, just loosen it up. You'll have to do this just a couple beads at a time because the angle is so sharp. Going through a couple more beads. Your last bead in the loop. And again, you're going to pass it through that red bead that was attached to your bracelet. Now you're going to pick up a white bead and go ahead and bead the white stripe. So there's 1 bead in the white stripe, 2 beads in the white stripe. It's a little more challenging because you don't want to catch your thread on the hook clasp. Now I'm going to pick up a red bead, and I'm going to pass it through the last red bead in my bracelet. Pick up 5 more red beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring them down to the bracelet. Bring the clasp around so that it fits against the bracelet. Sometimes it's a little easier to turn it one way, sometimes it's easier to turn the other way. You just have to experiment to see which way it'll most easily go. Bring your needle through the loop again. Bring the beads through the loop. Now this is a situation that we're encountering here that some of you might encounter, because each one of these little loops are handmade. In this particular case, the loop is too small for the beads to go through. So what I'm going to do is pass my needle back through the loop again. I'm going to take 3 of these off. You can use your own judgment how many to take off. So now I have two beads left on my loose thread. I'm going to put the needle through the loop. I'm going to pick up the other 3 beads again. I'm coming around and I'm passing it through that bead that was attached to the bracelet. So now I'm going to take that thread that got stuck loose. Now I have my loop again. Again, I'm going to pass a second time through the 5 beads that are on this loop. So the first 2 and through the loop of the clasp. Then the other 3. Snug it up a little bit tight. Again, pass it through that last bead that was attached to the bracelet. And now it's time to tie off this thread. This is going to be like when we changed the thread, which was demonstrated earlier. I'm going to take my needle, pass it through some of these beads. Because I have a white thread, I'm going to pass it to the middle of the piece. Those of you who are using a black thread might want to do their half-hitch knots in the red part of your bracelet. Go out on a diagonal, pick up some beads, pass through some beads. See how nicely this clasp is holding on now? I'm going to pass through a couple more. Sometimes the beads don't want to let you go through. That's okay. Just bend it tight. This time it only wanted to let me go through 2 beads. It's always good to zigzag a little bit, as I mentioned before. So now I'm going to come back and go in the other direction. I'm going through 2 beads in this case. I'm going to go zigzag again. Now I'm going to tie the double half hitch through one of these threads between the beads. First, bringing my needle from right to left. You bring it through and pass it through the loop. Now bringing my thread from left to right. And it's easier sometimes to move the bracelet in the other direction to do that. So it looks like I'm going in the same direction, but in fact I've reversed the bracelet. Making another half hitch. That's the knot that's going to secure the thread. And now I'm going to pass the thread through a few more beads, again on the diagonal. I'm going to make one more switchback just because that feels comfortable to me. There really can't be too many switchbacks. It just helps secure the thread into place. And because I'm using white thread, I'm pulling it taut. I'm going to bring my scissors up, and I am cutting it very close in the white section. And now I have a clasp that's securely attached to one end of my bracelet.